जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी। जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी। जय गोपी जन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारे। जय गोपी जन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी। यशोदानंदन व्रज जनरंजन। यशोदानंदन व्रज जनरंजन। यशोदानंदन व्रज जनरंजन। यामुनतीर बनचारे। यामुनतीर बनचारे। जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी। जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी। जय राधा माधव राधा माधव राधे। जय राधा गिरिधारी राधा गिरिधारी राधे। प्रभुपाद 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 जय जय प्रभुपाद। जय जय गुरुदेव 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 जय जय गुरुदेव। श्रील प्रभुपाद की, अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की, निताई गौर प्रेमानंदे। Hare Krishna. Thank you very much, dear devotees, for kindly assembling here today for Srimad Bhagavatam. I would especially like to thank all the senior Vaishnavas who are present here today. Sri Srimad Jayadvaita Swami Maharaj. Thank you so much, Maharaj. His Grace Dravid. Hare Krishna. Dravida Prabhu, thank you so much for kindly inviting. Okay. And but he's in the temple? Okay, he's at home. Okay. So thank you so much, dear devotees, all the wonderful Vaishnavas and Vaishnavis who are present here today. Thank you so much. Between the speaker and the audience, it is the audience that is responsible for the success of the program. The audience makes the program successful. On a particular day, a speaker may not turn up, so another speaker may be appointed. But if the audience doesn't turn up, then there will be no program. So hence proved that it is the audience who is responsible for the success of the program. Today all of you are present here as the audience, and you are the main source of the success of the program. So I pay my obeisances unto you. Thank you so much, dear devotees. It is Shisht Parampara, tradition established by our previous acharyas, that we should begin with Mangalacharan. So we will begin with Mangalacharan. Most of us know these verses. You can kindly sing along with me. Om Ajnanatimmirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Soyam Rupah Kada Mahyam Dadati Swapadantikam. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yutapada Kamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Desha Tarine Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gaurattushe Namaha. He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya evacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah. Jai Śrī Kṛṣṇa Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Grantharaj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 5th, Chapter 14, Text 26. Since it is not a verse, it is a paragraph, so we are unable to sing it, but we will recite it. Kindly repeat after me. Kvachin mitho vyavaharan yat kinchid dhanam anyebhyo va kakinika matram api apaharan yat kinchid va vidvesham eti vittashathyat. Synonyms. Kvachit, sometimes. Mithaha, with one another. Vyavaharan, trading. Yat kinchit, whatever little bit. Dhanam, money. Anyebhyah, from others. Va, or. Kakinika matram, a very small amount. 20 kaudis. Api, certainly. Apaharan, taking away by cheating. Yat kinchit, whatever small amount. Va, or. Vidvesham eti, creates enmity. Vittashatyat, because of cheating. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Abhay Charanaravindra Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, Jagadguru Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Translation. As far as transactions with money are concerned, if one person cheats another by a farthing or less, they become enemies. Purport. This is called samsar davanal. Even in ordinary transactions between two people, there is invariably cheating because the conditioned soul is defective in 4 ways. He is illusioned, he commits mistakes, his knowledge is imperfect, and he has a propensity to cheat. Unless one is liberated from material conditioning, these 4 defects must be there. Consequently, every man has a cheating propensity, which is employed in business or money transactions. Although two friends may be living peacefully together, due to their propensity to cheat, they become enemies when there is a transaction between them. A philosopher accuses an economist of being a cheater, and an economist may accuse a philosopher of being a cheater when he comes in contact with money. In any case, this is the condition of material life. One may profess a high philosophy, but when one is in need of money, he becomes a cheater. In this material world, so-called scientists, philosophers, and economists are nothing but cheaters in one way or another. The scientists are cheaters because they present so many bogus things in the name of science. They propose going to the moon, but actually they end up cheating the entire public of large sums of money for their experiments. They cannot do anything useful. Unless one can find a person transcendental to the 4 basic defects, one should not accept advice and become a victim of the material condition. The best process is to take the advice and instructions of Śrī Kṛṣṇa or his bona fide representative. In this way, one can be happy in this life and the next. Jagadguru Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Mukam karoti vachalam pangum langhayate girim yat kripam tamaham vande Shri Gurum Deenataranam. So, in this 14th chapter of the 5th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, the commentators say that Bhavatavi, that is the Atavi, the forest of Bhava, material existence, has been described. Actually, Srimad Bhagavatam is the best of all the Puranas. There is a devotee commentator on the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. His name is Sri Harishauri. Srila Prabhupada named a disciple after him. In the introduction to his commentary on the 10th canto, he glorifies Srimad Bhagavatam. He says, अन्याभि किमु तत्पुराणतरणि श्रेणिभिरारोहणम् यातो यासु नदीवरोऽपि लभते पारं भ्रमन्मानसा. He says, अन्याभिः. Sri Vyasadeva has created 17 Purana Taranis. What is a Purana Tarani? So, dear devotees, I am standing on this side of the ocean of material existence. There is an entire ocean ahead of me, and I have to cross over the ocean and reach the other side. And in order to reach the other side, I need Tarani. Tarani means I need a strong boat. So, he says, Anyabhihi kimutat Purana Tarani. So, Sri Vyasadeva created 17 Purana Taranis, 17 Purana boats in order to cross over. But then he is making a play on words. But these Purana Taranis are actually Purana Taranis. One meaning of Purana is literature written by Vyasadeva. Another meaning of Purana, in Hindi we say Purana, old. They are actually old. Yato yasu nadivaro pilabhate. And even a most intelligent person, the most intelligent captain of the ship, may feel immensely doubtful of crossing over this ocean, sitting on those 17 Purana taranis, old boats. Then he says, but I have confidence in the latest and greatest, newest boat created by Sri Vyasadeva. That is the 18th one. That is our very own Srimad Bhagavatam. So all glories to Grantharaj Srimad Bhagavatam. And in this particular paragraph, Srila Prabhupada is describing that a human being is always affected by 4 defects. This section on 4 defects originally comes up in the writings of our previous acharyas, especially in the Tattva Sandarbha of Srila Jiva Goswami. This is where it is mentioned for the first time in our Sampradaya. Because Srila Jiva Goswami says, now all of us are into spiritual life and we want to know what is Tattva. So the first Sandarbha is known as Tattva Sandarbha. So what is Tattva? Tattva means the absolute truth. So we want to know what is Tattva. But immediately he says, we cannot know what is Tattva. Why? Because dosha chatushtaya. We are affected by 4 defects. And what are the 4 defects? Srila Prabhupada has given them in the purport. So Srila Prabhupada says, he is illusioned, he commits mistakes, his knowledge is imperfect, and he has a propensity to cheat. So these 4 have technical names given by our previous acharyas. They are known as Brahma, Pramad, Vipralipsa, and Karana Patav. These are the names given to the 4 defects. Now, I will try to explain something about these 4 defects. There is some connection, interesting connection between these 4 defects. So, the first defect is named as Brahma. Brahma means to fall into illusion. Sometimes we do not know what a particular object or entity is, and we confuse it for something else. This is categorized as Brahma. For example, a person is walking on the street at night, it is dark, and on the street he sees a piece of rope. And because he does not know that it is a rope, he confuses it for a snake. So this is known as Brahma, confusing one thing for another because of lack of knowledge. This is known as Brahma. So in Brahma, one does not know what the actual object is. In this example, one does not know that it is a rope. Only after careful observation, he realizes that, oh, it is not a snake, it is actually a rope. So this is Brahma. Second is Pramad. Pramad means one knows what the object is, but due to inattention, one still ends up making a mistake. That is known as Pramad. That is the difference between Brahma and Pramad. For example, all of us must have attended school and written some exams in life. Did all of us end up securing 100% marks? No. Sometimes we knew what the correct answer was. Sometimes we knew what the correct spelling of a particular word was. But due to inattention, we ended up writing the incorrect spelling. So this is known as Pramad. The second defect, inattention or making mistakes. So this is the difference between illusion and making mistakes. In illusion, one does not know what the real object is, yet one confuses it for something else. In Pramad, in making mistakes, one knows what the actual object is. Still one ends up making a mistake. Third is even more severe, Vipralipsa. One knows what the actual truth is, and one knows one is deliberately falsifying it. Still one ends up falsifying it. This is known as Vipralipsa or cheating tendency. For example, if we go to any shopkeeper and ask him for something, and we ask him, how much does it cost? He will say, let's say he says $5. And we ask him, is this the cost price? He says, very little profit from you. Absolutely no profit from you. So he knows that he is lying at this point of time. He knows what is the actual cost price of the object. But still he ends up speaking something incorrect. This, dear devotees, is known as vipralipsa, cheating tendency. And even if these three are somehow not present, let's say we find a thoroughly honest person who is very pakka, who is very thorough in his observations, who usually doesn't fall victim to brahma, illusion, pramad, making mistakes, and who is not in a mood to cheat. Still there is an overarching defect which is present in all of us, that is karana patav. Karan means instrument. So these senses are all instruments for the soul. Apatu. Patu means expert. Apatu means non-expert. So karan apatavah. So non-expertise of the instruments is known as karana patava. So the instruments are in themselves defective, no matter if a person is thoroughly honest. Therefore the Srimad Bhagavatam also has to say that Tadvag visargo janatag viplavo yasmin pratishlokam abadhavatyapi. So people may be thoroughly honest, but still there is a possibility that they may end up making a certain mistake in whatever they say, because they have one of the four defects, at least one of the four defects. So the question arises, if everybody is affected by these four defects, then what should we do in order to gain knowledge which is beyond these four defects? Because if we are operating within the framework of these four defects, it is impossible to achieve knowledge that is perfect. No matter how hard we may try, it is impossible to achieve perfect knowledge. And therefore, Srila Jiva Goswami says something in Tattva Sandarbha. He says that we should look for some knowledge which has the following three criteria. And please note the criteria very importantly. First and foremost, the knowledge that we should have about the absolute truth should be anadi siddha. The second thing he says is sarva purusha paramparasu. And the third thing he says is sarva laukika alaukika jnana nidanatvat. These three conditions he sets for perfect knowledge. He says the first is anadi siddha. Anadi siddha means knowledge of the absolute truth should be anadi siddha. It should be available since time immemorial. It should be present since time immemorial. That should be the first characteristic of transcendental knowledge. It should not be produced at a certain point of time by a certain individual. Because if it is produced at a certain point of time by a certain individual, then individuals who were born before him will not have access to that knowledge. So the most perfect knowledge is that which is anadi siddha, which is available since time immemorial. That is the first characteristic of absolute truth. Second is sarva purusha paramparasu. In some way or other, it should be available to all human beings all around the world. And the third thing is, he says, sarva laukika alaukika jnana nidanatvat. And it should be the original source of all worldly and transcendental knowledge. And then Sri Jiva Goswami says, there is only one literature which fits these three criteria, and that is Vedaha Pramanam. Vedas are the original Pramana, the original texts which give the absolute truth. Why? Because Anadi Siddha, the Vedas were present in oral tradition since the beginning of human civilization or since the beginning of the creation. Second is Sarva Purusha Paramparasu. Shri Brahma originally had given the Vedas in all civilizations of human beings. So if we analyze the entire human society before let's say a few thousand years ago, 3,000 or 4,000 years ago, we will see that elements of Vedic culture were present all around the world, such as offering fire sacrifices. Fire sacrifice is a common thing which was present almost everywhere around the world. Worship of various deities is present various in almost all parts of the world. So even in Southern America, I was asking a devotee who's from Southern America, he said, I asked him, originally, whom did your ancestors worship a few thousand years ago? So he said, we were worshipping the sun. So we were worshippers of the sun god. So basically, in some way or other, it should always be present in the human society. And sarva laukika alaukika gyan, all material and transcendental knowledge should have been ultimately derived from this source of knowledge. So one time somebody asked me, how is all material knowledge derived from the Vedas? You see, we have engineering today, we have, space, rocket science, we have everything. How is this knowledge ultimately derived from the Vedas? So I asked him a very simple question. I said, all this knowledge is possible because we have Shabda Gyan. Shabda Gyan means knowledge of words. Without Shabda Gyan, without knowledge of words, it would not be possible for us to compose any literature. And almost all the Shabdas, almost all the words from all the literatures have come from one central language. And if you analyze which language they have come from, you will ultimately, if you study from an unbiased point of view, you will ultimately come to the point where you see that it is come from Sanskrit grammar. Because it was the original grammar which was present even 5,000 years ago in its most advanced state of learning. Panini says in his Ashtadhyayi, in his Sanskrit grammar, this is not the first grammar that he is writing. Before Panini's grammar, there was Indra's grammar, Aindra Vyakaranam. And that grammar was composed of 1 lakh sutras. Panini boiled it down into 4,000 sutras for people of Kali Yuga. So previously, all languages came from one original source, and that one original source of languages is responsible for creation of all other languages, out of which all other branches of knowledge have been derived. So ultimately, it is Veda which is responsible for the creation of all Laukika, worldly and Alaukika, transcendental knowledge. And Vedas are not simply limited to Indians. Vedas are, it is Sarva Purush Paramparasu. Actually, they have been gifted to the entirety of humankind. They are for everyone. The message of the Vedas is Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah, Sarve Santu Niramayah, Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu, Ma Kaschit Dukkha Bhag Bhavet. Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah. Let everybody be happy. The Vedas don't say let the Indians be happy and everybody else suffer. No, that is not the message of the Vedas. Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah. Let everybody be happy. Sarve Santu Niramayah. Let everybody be free of all diseases. Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu. Let everybody see only auspicious things. Ma Kaschit Dukkha Bhag Bhavet. Let nobody experience any miseries in life. So this is the Udara Charita, broad-minded message of the Vedas. What about the person who doesn't believe in Vedas? Let him also be happy, even if he doesn't believe in the Vedas. Let that person also attain all happiness in his or her life. This is the message of the Vedas. He may not believe in the Vedas, he may not have faith in the Vedas, but the Vedas always pray for the auspiciousness of such a person. They have no enmity against anyone. Just like Krishna says, Samoham Sarva Bhuteshu, Name Dveshyosti na Priya. I am equal to all living entities. For me, nobody is dear and nobody is an enemy. Similarly, for the Vedas too, nobody is dear, nobody is an enemy. They treat everyone with an equal eye of affection. So these are the 4 defects that affect all human beings, but there is only one source of knowledge which can pull a person out from this world and allow him to come in contact with the transcendental reality. And that is Vedaha Pramanam, Vedas. And amongst the Vedas also, Sri Vyasadeva has given the essence of all the Vedas, boiled down all the essence of the Vedas in this Srimad Bhagavatam. The first Sandarbha is known as Tattva Sandarbha. Tattva means the absolute truth. What is the absolute truth? It is defined in the Srimad Bhagavatam itself. Vadanti tat tattva vidas tattvam yajnanam advayam brahmeti paramatmeti bhagavan iti shabdyate. What is tattva? Tattva is one. Vadanti tat tattva vidas tattvam yat jnanam advayam. Tattva is one absolute non-dual truth. The absolute truth cannot be two. It has to be only one. But even though it is one, it is expressed in three different names by three different categories of transcendentalists. Some transcendentalists call it Brahma. Some transcendentalists call it Paramatma. Some transcendentalists call the absolute truth as Bhagavan. Sri Jiva Goswami says, why do different people give different names to the same absolute truth? And he says it is because of difference in qualification. Now this is a slightly technical section, so devotees, please hear carefully. What is the difference between Brahma, Paramatma and Bhagavan? Actually, Tattva is one. Tattva is not two. The absolute truth is one. But certain sadhakas, certain practitioners of spiritual life, they want to perceive that absolute truth, but they do not want to perceive the absolute truth with any energies. They want to perceive the absolute truth, but they do not want to perceive the absolute truth with any energies. They perceive all energies of the absolute truth as Maya, illusion. Therefore, they do not want to see the absolute truth with any energies. Such personalities, when they perceive the absolute truth, they perceive the absolute truth without energies, and the absolute truth manifests to them as the impersonal Brahman. What is the impersonal Brahman? Very simple, it's given in the Upanishad. Sarvam khalvidam Brahma. Everything here is Brahman. Dear devotees, what is Brahman? Everything here is Brahman. Everything outside it is Brahman. Everywhere, everything is Brahma. This is the definition of the Upanishads. Brahman is outside us. Brahman is inside us. Brahman is between you and me. Brahman is everywhere. Brahman is the substratum of existence of this entire universe. The universe is resting upon Brahma. So why can't we see it? Because Brahma is ashabdam, asparsham, arupam, avyayam. That it cannot be touched, it cannot be seen, it cannot be felt, it cannot be heard, it cannot be tasted, it cannot be experienced through any of the senses. Why? Because the practitioner denied all the energies of Bhagavan. He denied all the energies of the absolute truth. Therefore, the absolute truth manifested to the practitioner without energies. Therefore, the practitioner is unable to touch, taste, smell or experience the absolute truth in any way whatsoever. So, for such a practitioner who accepts the absolute truth but denies the energies of the absolute truth appears in the most basic feature, which is known as Brahman. Now, there are some other category of spiritualists who want to perceive the absolute truth, but only as the controller of the material energy. So they accept the absolute truth, but they accept it as the controller of the material energy. So when they see the absolute truth, they see that the absolute truth is controlling the material energy. But that is only within this world, because this world is the material world. And in this material world, when the absolute truth controls the material energy, it becomes known as Paramatma. Because there are three Paramatmas in this universe, not one Paramatma. There are three Paramatmas in the universe. First is known as Karanodaka Shai Vishnu, the Paramatma of the entire grand material creation, who oversees the entire material creation, is Karanodaka Shai Vishnu. The second Paramatma is Garbhodaka Shai Vishnu, the Paramatma, the super soul, the overseer of one particular universe. And the third is Kshirodaka Shai Vishnu, the Paramatma, the overseer of each and every atom and each and every living entity. These three Paramatmas are present within the material world only. And the sadhaka, the practitioner who perceives Bhagavan only as the controller of material energy, perceives Bhagavan in the form of Paramatma. And then comes the sadhaka, who perceives Bhagavan not only as the controller of material energy, but also as the controller of all spiritual energy. So that sadhaka who perceives Bhagavan along with his material as well as spiritual energies, to that sadhaka Bhagavan appears along with his spiritual energies, and Bhagavan manifests a spiritual form in front of him. That form is known as Bhagavan. So dear devotees, the absolute truth is one, that is Bhagavan. But Bhagavan is manifest in front of different practitioners of the absolute in different ways. To somebody who rejects all energies, Brahma. To somebody who accepts only the material energy and Bhagavan as the controller of material energy, he appears as Paramatma within the heart. And to somebody who accepts him as the controller of both material and spiritual energies, he appears as himself Bhagavan. Actually, when Krishna appears in front of us, we should ask a question. Let's say today we see Krishna in front of us. So Prabhu, if Krishna suddenly appears in front of you here, now you are seeing the form of Krishna with your eyes. A question arises. What is that form made out of? Spiritual energy. Very good. That's the perfect answer. The perfect answer is Swarup Shakti, spiritual energy. What is the meaning of Swarup Shakti? Swarup eva Shakti. His form itself is his spiritual energy. Actually, all forms within the world, they are created by Shakti. You see, any form in the world is created by some Shakti. So, this form is created by the Swarup Shakti of this particular world. Similarly, Bhagavan's form is created by his own Swarup Shakti. Without Swarup Shakti, without energy, Bhagavan cannot assume a form in front of his devotees. But Bhagavan is never without his Swarup Shakti. He is always with his Swarup Shakti. So whenever the sadhaka sees a form of Krishna in front of him, the sadhaka is seeing Swarup Shakti or the internal potency of Bhagavan in front of him. Because Bhagavan is always the controller of his internal potency and he is always equipped with his internal potency. So that is the difference between Brahma, Paramatma and Bhagavan. Actually, absolute truth is not three. Absolute truth is how many? One. But the perceivers are of how many kind? Three. So due to difference in perception, the same absolute truth is perceived in different manners. And in order to perceive the absolute truth, in order to see Bhagavan, if you are on the highest level of realization, we want to see Bhagavan, it is also important that we should have the required eyes to see Bhagavan. It is impossible to see a spiritual entity with material eyes. So some of us, if we are thinking that I will see Krishna with these eyes, it is impossible, because a spiritual entity cannot be captured using material eyes. It is impossible. In the 10th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, there is an interesting episode where Bhagavan Śrī Kṛṣṇa is running away from a king. His name is Kal-Yavan. And when Krishna enters the cave where there is a king who has been sleeping for long, and the name of the king is Muchakund. And when Krishna wakes up King Muchakunda, actually the Kal-Yavan wakes him up and then Muchakunda burns him to ashes. And then Muchakunda sees Krishna in front of him. And Muchakunda is amazed. He says, how is it that I am able to perceive your form in front of my eyes? He is amazed at that point of time. So the commentators ask, why? What is wrong? So Muchakunda says, actually you should be perceived only by the inner eye, not by the external eye. I am amazed as to how you are being perceived by my external eye, because my external eye is completely material and I am able to see your spiritual form through my eye. So I am unable to understand how is it that I got your darshan. So the Acharyas explain that unless the Yogamaya potency, the spiritual potency of Bhagavan, covers the eye, gives it a lens which is suitable for perceiving Bhagavan, it will not be possible for the material eye to perceive Bhagavan. So everybody who sees Bhagavan, who sees Lord Krishna face to face, who has Sakshat Darshan of Krishna, it is only possible because Yogamaya has allowed them to see Krishna face to face. Otherwise, it will not be possible. Even in Dwapara Yuga, when Krishna was manifesting his pastimes on this planet Earth, he was visible to everyone, to Shakuni, Dushyasan, Duryodhan, to everyone, even those who are inimical, because Yogamaya had made his form available to the eyes of these living entities. So even today, if we want to perceive Krishna's form, it is important that we should perceive Krishna's form through the spiritual eyes. Through material eyes, it will not be possible. We can see in the writings of all the acharyas that the form of Krishna is perceived only through a spiritual eye. Premanjana churita bhakti vilochanena santah sadaiva hridayeshu vilokayanti. The sadhus always see Krishna's form within the heart, and sometimes they see outside also. But premanjana churita bhakti vilochanena, with eyes which are tinged with a salve of love. That is how they are able to perceive the form of Krishna. Similarly, the acharyas also say that in this age of Kali, it is difficult for individuals to perceive Krishna face to face. Therefore, for many sadhakas, it is possible to see Krishna only in the heart. That is known as antardarshan. So, in Kali Yuga, Sri Sanatana Goswami says there is immense importance of antardarshan, perceiving Krishna within the heart. And all the acharyas have glorified antardarshan. Our Gaudiya Vaishnava acharyas too. They have said, Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur says, Mama mana mandire rahanishi dine Krishna Murari Śrī Kṛṣṇa Murari. Mama mana mandire, stay within the temple of my heart. He could have said Mama nayana mandire, stay in the eyes of my temple. But he says Mama mana mandire. Another song Bhakti Vinod Thakur says, Antara mandire jago jago. He says, please awaken within the temple of my heart. So everywhere you will find this thing, that the acharyas have glorified darshan within the heart. It's very important. So dear devotees, in today's purport I will summarize. Srila Prabhupada spoke about the 4 defects. These 4 defects are applicable to all human beings. In the commentary, Srila Baldev Vidyabhushan says that even those who are experts may sometimes end up making 1 or 2 mistakes. So even very expert people make mistakes from time to time. But only one person can avoid mistakes. And who is that person? Somebody who is quoting Vedas as it is. That person is avoiding all mistakes. Because the Vedas are the only source of error-free knowledge in this world. The Vedas have 3 characteristics: Anadi Siddha, Sarva Purusha Paramparasu, Sarva Laukika Alaukika Jnana Nidana. They are Anadi Siddha, available since time immemorial, although historians may artificially try to fix a date upon it, but they are fixing dates when the Veda was written down. They are not fixing a date upon when it originated. Sarva Laukika Alaukika Sarva Purusha Paramparasu, it should originally be available in all human society. And Sarva Laukika Alaukika Jnana Nidanatvat, it should be the original source of all worldly and transcendental knowledge. And that, Srila Jiva Goswami says, is Vedas. And amongst the Vedas, the cream of all the Vedas, the highest fruit from the tallest tree, is Srimad Bhagavatam. Srila Prabhupada also spoke about how money causes cheating in this world. There is a very nice verse. I will end with these 1 or 2 verses. There is a very nice verse in the Subhashitas. Vayo vriddhas tapo vriddhas jnana vriddhas tatha pare te sarve dhana vriddhasya dvari tishthanti kinkara. Vayo vriddha. Some people are rich in age. Some people are elderly. Tapo vriddhas. Some people are rich in austerities. They have too many austerities in their life. Jnana vriddhas. Some people are rich in knowledge. Tatha pare te sarve. But all these people, Dhanavriddhasya dvari tishtanti kinkara, stand as beggars on the door of that person who is rich in wealth. This is the nature of the material world. Vayo vriddhas, tapo vriddhas, jnana vriddhas thatha pare. Te sarve dhanavriddhasya dvari tishtanti kinkara. Those who are rich in wealth, in knowledge, in age, and in learning, sometimes you see they are standing at the door of that person who is rich in wealth. But this is not the nature of the Vaishnavas. The nature of the Vaishnavas is completely different. What is the nature of the Vaishnavas? The nature of the Vaishnavas is akritva parasantapam, agatva khalanamratam, anutsrujya satam vartma yat svalpamapi tadbahu. Akritva parasantapam, without giving any trouble to others. Agatva khalanamratam, without bowing down in front of a ruffian. Anutsrujya satam vartma, without giving up the path of the sadhus. So without doing these three things, without giving any trouble to anyone, without bending down backwards in front of a ruffian, and without giving up the path of the sadhus. Yat svalpamapi, whatever little I acquire, tad bahu, that is more than enough. This is the attitude of the Vaishnavas. Srila Prabhupada also had this attitude. When he was preaching in India before he left for the West, without giving any pain to others, without bowing down in front of ruffians, and without quitting the path that was taught to him by his Gurujanas, whatever little he attained, he considered it as sufficient. So this is personified in Srila Prabhupada. I am very thankful to Srila Prabhupada for kindly writing these purports. They have immense knowledge invested in them. So dear devotees, kindly take advantage of all these wonderful purports of the Srimad Bhagavatam. I would once again like to thank all of you who are kindly present here today. Yadatra skhalitam kinchid vidvam sahapurayantu tat. Yadatra saushthavam kinchit tad guroreva me nahi. Yadatra skhalitam kinchit. It is possible that while speaking I may have made many mistakes, because 4 defects were applicable to me also. But vidvam saha, you are learned people, purayantu tat. You please correct those mistakes. Yadatra saushthavam kinchit. But if there was anything nice in what I said, single sentence, a single word, a single syllable, half a syllable, it doesn't get below that in Sanskrit grammar. So even if half a syllable was nice, please remember, tad guroreva. It belongs to my Guru Janas, all my Gurus, my Diksha Guru, my Shiksha Gurus, who are all the disciples of Srila Prabhupada, all the God brothers of Srila Prabhupada, all the Gaudiya Vaishnavas around the world, including all of you. It belongs to all of you, me nahi. It doesn't belong to me. Thank you very much, dear devotees. Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna. Yes.
This is maybe the obvious answer, but I just wanted to clarify. In this list that Prabhupada gives in the purport, one of the elements is his knowledge is imperfect.
Right.
And that seems to be the same as imperfect senses. Is that right?
Yes, imperfect. Right.
Yeah, because that's the one we usually hear.
Yes.
Okay.
Actually, knowledge is senses are the cause, knowledge is the effect. So, I'm not sure what has happened here, but the effect has been mentioned in place of the cause. Actually, the cause should have been mentioned. So, knowledge, imperfect senses should have been mentioned. But for some reason, Srila Prabhupada has mentioned the result of imperfect senses, which is imperfect knowledge. But it's okay. In Sanskrit it is said, karyat karanam. From the effect we can judge the cause. Something like
that. It seems that there's a phenomenon where the cause and effect have the same word.
Right.
Gati and gati.
Right.
And things like that.
Yeah, it is called, gati and gati. Gati also means the refuge. Gati also sometimes means the path taken to reach the refuge. Yeah. Yes. Thank you. Yes. Sure. But yeah, so I'm not sure, Prabhu, what the time limit is. You please let me know. Yes. Yes, Tapas Prabhu. Yes, those who are on Zoom, Akashvani. Let the Akashvani occur.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
May I?
Yes, yes, definitely, 100.
Yes, Hari Parshad Prabhu, thank you very, very much. You're very kind. My question is, why is it that the four basic defects, illusion, mistakes, imperfect senses, and cheating, are capable of making me unhappy?
Okay. Why is it that the four defects are capable of making us unhappy? For a very simple reason. Because through these four defects, one acquires two qualities known as raga and dvesha, which are mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita. Because of raga and dvesha, raga is attachment to a certain material object, dvesha is repulsion from a certain material object. Why does unhappiness arise? Sometimes raga remains unfulfilled. We have a certain material attachment, but we are not able to attain that object. And sometimes we have dvesha, we have repulsion towards something, and we end up attaining it. I'll give a simple example. For example, if it comes in the news that today the latest iPhone has been released in the stores, and if I go to the store, I want the latest and greatest one, and unfortunately, I was late and all the iPhones got exhausted and they are not available online. So what I experience is frustration of not being able to attain my raga attachment. And dvesha, I'll give an example. Suppose I do not like milk and I visit somebody's place and they're very dear to me and they say, "Oh Prabhu, I made milk for you, strawberry flavored milkshake." So I do not like it, but because I am very good friends with that person, then I say, okay, what to do? So then these are raga and dvesha are causes of unhappiness within this world. They cause a person to mistake the unreal for the real, what is not rasa for rasa. And for this reason, raga and dvesh cause a person to suffer in this world and also enjoy in this world. The four defects not only cause material suffering, they also cause material enjoyment. But actually material enjoyment is also ultimately a figment of the mind. It is ultimately an illusion. Ultimately, there is only one enjoyment for the soul, that is rasa. Raso vaisaha. Rasa hi eva labdhva anandi bhavati. Actually, the Supreme Lord is rasa. And the jiva also becomes anandi, becomes joyous only on attaining bhakti rasa. But the jiva confuses prakrita rasa, material mellows, to be his source of enjoyment, and that is also ultimately an illusion. So that is the answer to your query. I hope it satisfies your query.
Yes, Hari Prasad Prabhu, better than satisfying. As usual, outstanding answer to my question. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yeah, another devotee. Yeah. Yes, on Zoom. Yes. Arushi Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Hare Parshad Prabhuji, please accept my most humble obeisances. Jai Srila Prabhupada. Prabhuji, towards the end of your lecture, you mentioned about qualities of a Vaishnava. So, we see that there are not all Vaishnavas, but of course some devotees are on the path of becoming a Vaishnava because they are trying to practice bhakti, and they are, by bhakti, their many bad qualities are going away. But we often see that devotees also like quarrel and because of their past conditionings. So is that devotee fit to be called as a Vaishnava? Because a Vaishnava means, para dukha dukhi, and he has all the good qualities. So I want to better understand who a Vaishnava is, and can we call a person a Vaishnava if he has some conditionings from his past, Prabhuji?
Okay. So can a devotee be called a devotee if they have past conditionings such as becoming angry? So of course they can be called a Vaishnava, because the simple definition of Vaishnava is Krishneti yasya giri, on whose tongue there is the name of Krishna. That person is on the most basic level a Vaishnava. So obviously, even if a person is exhibiting anger, but still if they are chanting Krishna Nam, they are considered to be a Vaishnava. But in the third canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, Shri Kapil Muni says, Abhisandhaya yo himsam. A Vaishnava who constantly has himsa, violence towards others in his mind, who is of a separatist nature. Such a Vaishnava, although such a person may be denoted as a Vaishnava, he is known as the most Prakrita, the Kanishta, the lowest type of Vaishnava. And such a Vaishnava, it is expected that they should rise to higher standards. So they are a Vaishnava, yes, but they are not considered as a very elevated Vaishnava. Why? Because Shastra themselves categorizes. Actually, such a Vaishnava sometimes is considered to be in the mode of ignorance. There is Bhakti in the mode of ignorance, Bhakti in the mode of passion, Bhakti in the mode of goodness, and Bhakti in the free from the modes that is known as Nirguna Bhakti, that has been described by Kapil Muni in the third canto. So Mataji, my suggestion is that if you have a look at that section in the third canto, please have a look at all types of Bhakti in all the modes, and then you will see Bhakti in Tamoguna, ignorance, and Rajoguna, passion, and you will find many of the qualities of such devotees mentioned there. So from there you can get an idea that such individuals are also to be termed as Vaishnavas. But they have to improve. Just because they are Vaishnavas doesn't mean that they should be satisfied in that position. They have to improve to come to the stage where they see Sarva Bhuteshu Yah Pashed Bhagavad Bhavamatmanaha, that where they are able to see Vasudevam Sarvamiti. Everybody is a servant of Vasudeva. Vasudeva controls everything. Vasudeva is present everywhere. Is Krishna present between you and me? Yes. As Brahman or as in his personal form? No. Also in his personal form. Krishna is present between both of us in his personal form, with his hands and legs and all features of his body. This conviction should be had by all the devotees. Then we can say that we have understood Vasudevam Sarvamiti. So this is the reply to your query, Mataji. I hope it satisfies your query to some extent. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Wonderful explanation.
One more quick one.
Yes.
If I could. I always thought of these 4 defects, and you can correct me, because is that we have imperfect senses. And because we have imperfect senses, we make mistakes. We see so many things wrong. And when we continue to make that mistake, it gets established as an illusion. And when we propagate that illusion, that's cheating. Is that a false? When sometimes devotees give different connections between the 4 defects. I specified what I had learned in childhood, that sometimes you don't know what the original object is and then you confuse it for something else. That is illusion. Sometimes you know what it is and then you deliberately, still due to inattention, that is. But some devotees have also done like that. It is theoretically possible to make such a connection. The only thing is I have not seen it by any previous authority. Doesn't mean that nobody can do it. We can still do it because somebody can still make some further research into it. It's an easy way to remember them for me.
Yes, that's also functionality is very important for us. So whatever helps us remember is also very good. Yes. Tapas Prabhu, is there anybody else online? Nobody else online? Okay. So have we satisfied everybody in the world? Yes. Okay. Sarve bhavantu sukhina. Let everybody be happy. Especially by honoring Prasadam. Prasadam will make everyone immediately happy, dear devotees. Prasade sarva dukkhanam hani rasyopajayate. If there was any misery remaining, even after the class, Prasadam will definitely end all miseries. Thank you very much, dear devotees. Thank you so much, Maharaj, for kindly being here. Srila Prabhupada ki, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki, Nitai Gaur Premanande.